A simple father-daughter road trip turns into a desperate fight for survival after a wrong turn leads them to a secluded house in the mountains. With their car stranded, night falling, and a shotgun-wielding madman at the door, young Cali Jansen is forced to confront her fears.
What's that? You want to be scared? Come with me. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Listen in the dark. It's more fun that way. This is Weekly Spooky.
Hello, my spookies. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time for a little spooky in your weekly. I'm your host and narrator, Enrique Couto, and tonight we have quite a terror tale for you, courtesy of our very own Morgan Moore. A story all about heading on the road as winter breaks and spring begins. But before we get to that, I want to say thank you so much for tuning into the program. This is the time of year when only the most hardcore Halloween-loving spookies need something scary every single week. Even as the sun shines and the days are longer, you, my dear listener, need something a little bit more dark to enjoy. So sincerely thank you, and make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app. And if you love what we're doing so much you want to support us in a direct way, head to weeklyspooky.com/join. For as little as $1 a month, you get 2 bonus shows every single month, over a year's worth of creepypasta readings, exclusive audiobooks, and so much more. And we're wrapping up the April Fool right now, the brand new Strickfield miniseries exclusively at weeklyspooky.com/join. Now, as for tonight, family road trips are supposed to be fun. Long drives, junk food, and maybe catching a ball game on the way. But sometimes when you're far from home and you take a wrong turn, you find yourself somewhere you were never meant to be. Tonight's story is about a father and daughter trying to reconnect on the road, but when their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere, they discover the kind of place where help doesn't come easy. And some people don't take kindly to strangers. So get comfortable. We start this terror tale after this. Strikeout by Morgan Moore. How much longer, Dad? Cali Jansen asked. For today or in general? He replied. I guess both, the 11-year-old answered. Well, we'll probably stop in an hour or so for the night at a hotel. Then tomorrow it shouldn't be much longer to Grammy's, he told her. Awesome, Cali responded. Her father smiled at her eagerness. Cali and her father were on their way to her grandmother, or, as she had always called her, Grammy's house in Maryland. It was a tradition they had kept every spring since Cali could remember. She and her father loved baseball, and the Baltimore Orioles were their shared favorite team. Her name, in fact, came from one of their more storied players in Cal Ripken Jr. Cali's dad insisted on using the name in any way, shape, or form for his firstborn. So when he and her mom learned they were having a little girl, they decided on Cali. Currently, they were nearing the halfway point of their trip. Cali and her family lived in Ohio, which meant she and her father would trek through the Buckeye State, down through West Virginia, and finally, Maryland. Cali's dad usually considered West Virginia the halfway point, unless they got up super early where they would do the trip in one go. Knowing they would be stopping soon brought joy to Cali, as they usually stopped in the same town, known as Morgantown, and almost always either went to a diner near the hotel or ordered pizza. Then it would be breakfast at the hotel in the morning, and then onward to Grammy's, where, save for some eating out, they dined on her grandmother's homemade cooking, with her chocolate chip pancakes being Callie's favorite. She could almost taste them. Not to mention opening day for the Orioles. Callie returned her attention to the book she was reading, her normal way of passing the time on the drives, unless she wanted to break out her Game Boy Advance and replay one of the Pokemon games for the umpteenth time. If she had her way, Callie would have her mitt and ball with her and pass the time by lightly tossing it and catching it. But her dad had vetoed that since last year, when she nearly caused him to have an accident. The mitt and ball, along with her bat, would have to wait. Callie felt her eyes start to grow heavy as she continued to read. The heaviness soon overcame her, and they began to close. Once fully closed, she was out like a light. Her eyes shot open as her body was jolted away. Her eyes danced around before catching a glance at the time on the radio deck. 6:30 p.m. She turned her attention to her dad, who was cursing under his breath. "Daddy?" she asked in shocked fright. "I don't know what I hit, but 2 of our tires just blew out," he told her. "What do we do?" Callie questioned. "Well, normally when you have a flat tire, you just change it. But I don't have 2 spares, so..." He trailed off. "So then what do we do?" she asked, with fear creeping into her tone more and more. "Well, we're not close to a town yet," he responded as his eyes looked at their surroundings. "We're in trouble?" Callie asked. Her father does not answer. Instead, he keeps his eyes scanning the area. Finally, a small smile appears on his mouth, and he snaps his fingers. "There we go," he exclaims in hopeful joy. Callie turns her attention to where her father was looking. Shortly up ahead was what looked like the start of a driveway. "Does that lead to somebody's house?" she asked. "We'll find out soon enough, honey. Either way, it'll lead somewhere that will hopefully find people and can plan our next steps from there," he answered. "Will we make it with the tires?" Callie questioned, as her nostrils became filled with the smell of burning rubber. "I hope so, sweetie," he said. Callie's father carefully turned the car leftwards into the opening and began driving up the path slowly. While night was not far behind, the sun was starting to lower as dusk took over. The path winded up part of a mountain whose trees, along with the slowly setting sun, left little light for them to use. Finally, they arrived at an open gate. The father and daughter rolled down their windows and poked their heads out. Callie spotted an old metal sign dangling from one of the gate doors. She squinted her eyes to read it. "Keep out," she said. "What was that, sweetie?" her father asked. "There's a sign that said keep out." "I think that means we shouldn't go in anymore, Daddy," Callie told her father. "The gate is open, though. Besides, even if they don't necessarily want strangers around, we do have a valid reason on our side. We need help," he explained. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" Callie questioned. "It's either this or pulling over on the road," he answered. With that, her father drove through the gates as he switched on the headlights. The pair continued forward as the large house came into view via the headlights. Callie's father slapped the steering wheel in excitement. Once close enough, Callie's dad pulled to a stop and turned off the truck. "Dad?" Callie said. "What is it, honey?" he returned. "I don't have a good feeling about this," she told him. "How come?" he asked. "It just doesn't feel right going somewhere we shouldn't. Besides," she started as she looked at the surroundings. "This place gives me the creeps," she finished. Her father smiled at her. "I know, hun. It's a new place and we're in a bad spot. But at the end of the day, I like to believe that people are good and will help their fellow man. Even if the people who live here are angry that we pulled in, surely they'll understand why. Come on, let's find out what fate has in store for us," he said. On that note, her father swung his door open and exited the car. Hesitating for a moment, Callie took some deep breaths before getting out of the car and joining her father. She grasped and curled her hand around his, prompting a smile from him and a ruffle of her hair in response. The father and daughter made their way across the grounds. The duo ascended up a small set of steps onto the wooden patio of the house. At the door, Callie's father took a deep breath, put on his best friendly smile, and knocked on the door. Nothing. He waited for a moment before knocking again, a bit harder. Still nothing. Frowning a bit, Callie's father banged on the door with his whole fist. Not 2 seconds later, the door swung open, violently.
Don't go away. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
"Go away!" a grisly voice commanded. Callie and her dad looked at the man in front of them. He was tall and burly, with a full and bushy black beard and head of dark hair that looked messy and greasy. He was dressed in jeans, a plain-colored t-shirt, an opened-up work shirt, and large boots. Most importantly, and jarringly, to the father and daughter, was the shotgun he held in his hands. "Hello," Callie's dad started. "My name is Nathan Janum. This is my daughter Callie. We were on our way to visit some family when 2 of our tires blew." He points to their car. "I know it's late and probably not what you wanted to have at your doorstep this time of night, but we really need help. My cell phone is close to dead. I do have some cash, though, if you'd be willing to help us." He finished as his hand slides into his pocket and withdraws his wallet. "I don't care. Get!" the man told them with growing menace. Callie shuddered at the look in his eyes. "I'm sorry, sir, but I'm just a father in a bad predicament with his daughter. I promise if you let me use your phone, me and her will get out of your hair as fast as possible," Callie's dad said. The man held up and aimed the shotgun right at Callie's father. "I don't give a shit who you are and what you want. Get off my property now. Last warning," he told her father, directly before giving a look at Callie that made her skin crawl. Her father gulped and then sighed and took another breath. "Listen, buddy, I'm not falling for this tough guy who lives out in seclusion in the wilderness crap. We need help. The least you can do if you won't help us is tell us who will." Her father all but ranted. The man's response was a simple one. He raised his aim, pulled on the trigger of the shotgun, and blew the head of Callie's father right off. Blood and brain matter splattered all over the porch, as well as the man and Callie. She turned and looked to where her father had stood a moment prior, only to find him splayed out on the ground with his head blown open and a messy pile of flesh and blood and brain. Callie wanted to scream, but couldn't find the ability to do so due to the shock. Her eyes returned to the man who was loading 2 fresh slugs into the shotgun and locking it into place. He pointed it at her torso. Before she knew what was happening, she jumped off the porch and started running across the grounds. A shot thundered out from the gun, and she saw the ground off to her side erupt. He missed. She kept her pace up, unsure of where to go or how far the man would give chase. Another blast from the gun echoed through the air, and Callie felt the ground right behind her at her feet blown apart. The impact on the ground near her caused her to stumble and then fall forward, slamming face down into the dirt. She felt like she had been punched square in the face and was dizzy. Her eyes fluttered open and stared ahead. Callie became grateful that she landed where she did. Only a few inches away from where she fell was a snap trap. If she had kept running or fell a bit farther, either her foot or her face would have been crushed. She got to her feet slowly and risked a look behind her. The man was off of the porch and started to run toward her. Unsure of what was the best option, Callie looked down and around the ground. In her search, she found an old beer bottle and picked it up. Better than nothing, she told herself. Callie turned to face the oncoming threat, and when he was just close enough, as he started to raise the gun, she reared back her arm and threw the bottle like she was trying to strike out a player to win a game. The bottle collided with the man's face and shattered. He rubbed and picked at his visage to remove any glass that might have embedded itself in his flesh. Using the opportunity to her advantage, Callie sprinted past the man and kept running past the house towards its backyard. Behind her, all she heard was the man. "I'm gonna kill you, you little bitch!" Callie's eyes darted around the backyard. Her options for a hiding spot were not the best. There was a shed, but surely the man would look there first, and it was possible that it was locked. She considered trying the back door, but who knew what horrors were inside? Callie considered hiding under the raised back porch, climbing a tree, or to simply keep running. Then her eyes landed on a doghouse, which looked to be big and dug into a decently deep level. Callie sprinted towards it and slid into the opening. The space inside was tight, but was indeed deep enough to allow her to partially crawl out of view. Lying in the dirt, the tears finally came as Callie processed the last few minutes. Her father had died. No, was slaughtered before her eyes. Her white and black baseball shirt was covered in his blood, and she could feel the wetness of brain matter on her face and in her hair. "Daddy," she cried in her head. She dared not to speak and give away her hiding spot. Callie shook her head. Get it together. You need to keep it together if you want to survive, she told herself. How, though, was the question. She didn't know fully why she had even chosen to run to the backyard. Her best guess was fear that if she left the property, that the man would pursue her and most likely get her. After all, he lived out here and most likely knew the land better than anybody. Not to mention, it was possible he did leave the property thinking she may have gone back down the mountain and could have closed and locked the gate. She thought about running past the backyard, but was unsure if and when it would stop. It seemed plausible the man might have another gate or fence somewhere behind his house. In her mind, that left one option: the car. Cali knew her father had the keys with him when they went to the door, most likely in one of his pockets. The issue, though, was both being able to get to them before being caught, and the fact that 2 tires were unusable. Cali didn't know much about cars, but she knew driving on blown-out tires leads to driving on rims, which is an even worse problem. Add to that the growing darkness and her inability to drive, which meant it was most likely not a good idea. A few seconds later, though, a fresh idea entered Cali's head and brought a smile to her face.
You're not safe yet. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
Her baseball stuff was in the trunk of the car, which meant her baseball bat was in there as well. If she could get the keys to the car, Cali could unlock the trunk, get her bat, and have a weapon. True, she knew a baseball bat, especially a wooden one, wasn't the best choice against a shotgun, but it was something. Besides, she told herself, if you could outrun and dodge 2 shots, maybe you can do it again. When he would go to reload, you can go up to him and start beating him with the bat. Her smile turned to a grin as she envisioned getting revenge against the man. It was a risky plan, but the only feasible one Cali could think of. She started to crawl out of the doghouse. She figured it might be best to run around the house the opposite way she came into the backyard, in case the man was waiting for her. Cali considered crawling on the ground to do so, but if there was one spring trap on the premises, there would likely be more. This man clearly took any and all precautions to keep people away. Exiting the doghouse, Cali slowly rose to her feet when a thought occurred to her. There was a doghouse, but there didn't seem to be a dog. Unless... Foss! The man's voice roared. Cali turned her attention to the back porch and saw the man standing there. Next to him was a dog, a cane corso. The moment it heard its master speak, it shot forward like a speeding train towards Cali. The plan to go around the house vanished as Cali began sprinting for her life back the way she came, with the dog in pursuit behind her. How am I going to get the keys and get away before the dog even catches me? The answer was simple. I'm just going to have to. Cali rounded a corner into the front of the grounds and turned to the porch. She ran towards it with the dog barking right behind her. Cali jumped up the small steps and slid to a crash against the wall. She shook it off and hustled to her father and checked his pockets. The keys were gone. The man must have taken them, she said to herself. Before she could think any further, the dog jumped onto her, snarling. Cali remembered when a police officer visited her class and explained to them what to do if a dog ever attacked you. Normally, it would be to stay still, but this was no ordinary dog. Cali shook her body around back and forth to gather any momentum she could. Feeling confident enough, Cali rolled her body to the side and brought the dog onto its side. She then gave it a hard punch to its chest, which elicited a yelp and a momentary retreat from the dog. Cali jumped to her feet. If I want in the trunk, I'll have to use the hatch in the car. She hoped and prayed the man hadn't locked it as she leapt off the porch and ran towards the car. She pulled hastily on the driver's side door and was relieved to find it unlocked. Cali quickly got inside and shut the door. A moment later, the dog jumped against the window, barking fiercely. Cali screamed as she searched for the right lever to pull, pulling on all of them just to be sure. Hearing the trunk click and pop open, Cali breathed a sigh of relief. Then she stared out the front of the car and found the dog standing by the man, his shotgun aimed right at the vehicle. The next thing she knew, there was a bang, and the windshield shattered. Screaming in terror, Cali crawled from the driver's seat into the back. There she opened a door and crawled out. Staying on the ground, she made her way to the back of the car, then moved onto her knees. Gripping the latch of the trunk, she pushed it open the rest of the way. And there it was. Her baseball bat. She grinned as she pulled it out of the trunk and wielded it like a sword. Okay, Cali, time to do either the bravest or dumbest thing in your whole life, she said to hype herself up. Cali stood up and walked around the car to find the man and the dog. The man had the shotgun aimed at her. He eyed the baseball bat in her hands, adjusted his aim, and fired. The bat blew apart in Cali's hand, sending wood all over the ground, as well as into the flesh of her hands, arms, and face. She fell to the ground, ears ringing from the force of the blast, and screamed in agony. She felt more pain than she could have ever imagined. "Foss!" the man commanded again. She heard the snarl, but couldn't find the strength to move. A moment later, the dog was on her and elicited fresh screams from her throat as it ripped and teared into her thigh. With what strength she had, Cali beat on its head to no avail. Her defense only caused the dog to tighten its hold. It shook its head, causing more damage. Through growingly hazier eyes, Cali turned her head and saw that in her right hand she was still gripping the shattered and splintered remains of the bat. She looked at the dog. "Dear God, I'm sorry." In one furious movement, she plunged the remains of the bat into the neck of the beast. She twisted it as she pulled it out and watched blood flow out of the wound. "Barbas!" the man screamed. Almost as if the first stab filled her with more energy, Cali screamed as she repeatedly thrust the broken bat into the dog's throat and its torso. Her body became covered in its blood as life quickly drained from it. Cali shoved the dog off of her and slowly stood up, her body shaking from shock. She looked to where the man was and saw him running at full speed toward her. "You have one chance, Cali," she told herself. The moment the man was in range, Cali shrieked and pushed her body forward and plunged the remains of the bat into the man's hip. He howled in pain and in response dropped the shotgun as he staggered back a few inches. Not wasting a moment, Cali picked up the shotgun and aimed it at the man. She watched as he pulled out the bat and threw it to the ground. His eyes moved to her, and a grin formed across his bearded mouth. "What you gonna do with that, bitch?" he asked tauntingly. "I'm going to shoot you just like you did my dad," Cali retorted. The man's grin widened. "Really now? Sure you have enough strength to do it?" "Uh-huh," she answered, knowing her strength was indeed fading fast. "Are you sure it's loaded?" the man questioned. "Wha?" Cali responded. The man chuckled. "What makes you so sure it's loaded? After all, you were in La La Land getting mauled by my dog. So how do you know if I ever loaded it again?" Of course you did," Cali says back to him, but admits in her head that the man raises a viable point. "Really now? You bet on it being loaded?" he taunts. "Yeah," she squeaks out. "Well, what about this one?" the man said as he reached behind him and brandishes a pistol, aiming it at Cali. You have another gun?" Cali questioned in genuine surprise. "Course I do. Be prepared to protect yourself and whatnot," the man answered with a menacing glee. Silence fell between the two, with only the sound of nature filling the space between them. They stare each other down, each one waiting for the other to make the first move. "So, you really want to bet your life on that shotgun being loaded?" the man asked. Finding she had little strength left to speak, Cali nodded her head to say that she does. "Well, I guess we'll find out then," the man said. They let silence fall over them once more as they listened to crickets and other nocturnal sounds. Their fingers each squeeze and then pull back on their respective triggers. There was a bang and the odor of gun smoke as it filled the night. Well, my spookies, I hope you enjoyed that story as much as I enjoyed reading it. Something to get you in the mindset of spring, since it's basically sprung, although here in Ohio, you never really can tell. One day it's 74 degrees, today the high is 50. But I digress, because no matter what temperature it is outside, here at Weekly Spooky, we keep it chilling. Yeah, you like that? I also want to say, if any of you spookies are in Columbus, Ohio, this weekend, the weekend of April 19th and 20th, I'll be at the Oddities and Curiosities Expo. So come and say hello. I'd love to see you. I'll be at the Terror Vision booth, offering up collector's edition Blu-rays, 4Ks, and a few of the movies I've directed. So I'd love to see you if you happen to be in the Columbus area this weekend. It should be a whole lot of fun. And I want to remind you, if you love what we're doing here at Weekly Spooky and want to help us go 6 years and beyond, the best way is to go to weeklyspooky.com/join and sign up for as little as $1 a month. And I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who joined our spooky community of over 100 and pay a little bit more to hear their names at the end of the show. And they are Kate and Lulu, Jessica Fuller, Johnny Nix, Jenny Green, Amber Hansford, Brent McCullough, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. If you want to join them in hearing your name out of my silky, spooky voice, just head to weeklyspooky.com/join and choose the $15 a month or higher tier. You'll get all the bonus stories, audiobooks, and so much more, and have your name at the end of every single episode of Weekly Spooky. I really, sincerely do appreciate it. You're all awesome. I love keeping Halloween alive, especially as spring and summer come into full bloom. So, for myself, for my executive producers Rob Fields, Mark Shields, and Bobbletopia.com, for my producer Dan Wilder, and my composer Ray Mattis, I'll catch you at the ballgame.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.